right, remain seated. Court's back in session.
Okay, you may be seated. We have everyone? Okay, let's bring out the jury.
Jury entering.
All right, counsel may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Williams, you may proceed.
Don't even waste your time. He's not going to do it with no lay down.
You didn't tell me that. You told me. Well, I'm going by what you told me.
I told you that was done. I don't want to talk about this over the phone. God, I'm just trying to help you and you're fucking getting me more involved.
That's fine. We'll see what the fuck happens when they call. Just try to be down here in like 40 minutes. Alright?
Which car are you taking?
The Tahoe.
The Mercedes?
No, the Tahoe, the truck.
Which one has door for 10?
Truck.
Alright, the worst thing that comes to worst scenario, you'll have to give you back $1,200 if you doesn't accept the $1,000 down payment.
Right. Okay. Or just give me the fucking shit that they were gonna use. I fucking paid for it, didn't I?
Yeah, what if they don't do that?
Alright.
I think most of the time they run from people.
Alright, well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to, like, get my own men, like, with the 1,200, like, if they won't do it for the one, because I'm not gonna do it. I can't. So I'm just gonna end up calling somebody or whatever that, like, I know and just getting my own.
I think it's worth it.
What?
I think it's worth it because he doesn't know what I'm all he does.
Alright, well, I'll see you down here in like 40 minutes. Okay, bye.
All right, today's date is going to be August the 3rd, 2009. The time right now is 3:08 p.m. This is a control conversation.
Did that concern you as part of the investigation when she said...
Objection, Your Honor's leading.
Overruled.
When she said if he didn't agree to get paid after the murder was done, that she wanted her gun back and she would go find somebody else to do it?
Yes, it did.
Did that mean you guys would lose control of her and she could actually kill him?
Yes.
Let me show you some. All right, let me keep going. Number 8 was a call from Woody John to the defendant telling her that he was 30 minutes away.
Yes.
You overheard that?
Yes.
Number 9 at 5:24 p.m. Ms. Dippolito and Mr. Jean, the hitman, talked about where they were going to meet.
Yes.
The video with Woody Jean and the defendant getting into her car, where was that in relation to the home, the mobile gas station?
It was at the CVS parking lot, which is the 1900 block of North Congress Avenue. From the gas station, it is just west of that. It's about 2.5 miles
All right,
approximately.
So the jury knows. If I drive down 95 and I head south here, would I get off at Gateway Boulevard?
Yes.
And if I headed west on Gateway Boulevard, where's the mobile gas station?
It's right after the I-95 overpass, High Ridge, which is 850 West Gateway.
And is the mobile on
It-
my north side, south side?
It's on your south side.
So it's be on my left-hand side as I'm heading west?
Yes.
Okay, and then as I keep heading west, where is the CVS?
The CVS is going to be at the intersection of Congress Avenue and Gateway.
All right,
And it's going to be on the south, it's going to be on the southwest corner.
All right, so just the jury knows. So when I get to Congress, I would basically make a left and it's right there on my right-hand side?
Yes.
All right. Where was the Chili's located in relation to that?
Chili's is right across and it would be on the northeast side.
So catty corner?
Yes.
On Congress and Gateway?
Yes.
And then where was the residence where Mr. and Mrs. Dippolito lived back
There's-
in August?
It's on Gateway and Congress, and it's actually, it would be on the southeast corner. It's the Renaissance Commons area.
So would it would be actually east of the CVS
Yes,
on that parcel of land?
yes.
East?
It's on the southeast side.
All right. Were you able to, did you conduct surveillance when they were at the CVS conducting?
Yes.
Mr. Jean? And were you able to listen to that live?
Yes.
After that happens, August 4th of 2009, does the investigation continue?
Yes.
On August 4th of 2009, are you with Woody Jean when he contacts the defendant to talk to her about the future plans?
Yes.
And is that when he tells her that the bank's not going to work?
Yes.
So there's going to be
Objection, hearsay, Judge.
Sustained.
All right. After the, did the defendant agree with Mr. Jean that the killing?
Objection calls for hearsay, Judge.
Come forward.
When you were listening live to Mr. Jean and the defendant at the CVS when they were discussing the killing of her husband, did she agree that the killing would be done at her house the next day?
There was a discussion between the house and the parking lot of the bank.
And they didn't decide on which one?
No.
Later on August 4th, did Woody Jean contact the defendant and talk to her about where the murder was going to go down?
Objection, hearsay, Judge.
Approach.
On the 5th of August 2009, did you guys conduct surveillance at the Dippolito residence?
Yes.
And about what time did you guys get there?
We got it. The detective set up around 5 o'clock in the morning.
And did Ms. Dippolito leave the residence?
Yes.
And tell the jury what time she left the residence.
What's that?
Tell the jury what time she left the residence.
I don't remember the exact time.
Was it before 6 a.m.?
Yes.
You guys were able to see her leave the residence?
Yes, I had 2 detectives following her as she left the residence, and they were communicating the information to us.
And they followed her to the location she was going to?
Yes.
And did you end up going to the residence to talk to Mr. Dippolito?
After she left, yes.
After you guys spoke to Mr. Dippolito, did you take him back to the police station?
Yes.
Overruled.
Let me show you a couple photographs. Take a look at states 47A through M. See if you recognize those. Those are the photos we looked at before?
Yes.
Judge, I'd offer states 47A through M into evidence.
47 or 46? 47?
47A through M as in Mary.
Objection, Judge, the reproach.
Yes.
Officer Moreno, do those pictures accurately depict the way those businesses look back in August of 2009 from the air?
Yes, they do.
Judge, I'd offer states 47A through M into evidence.
Any additional objection?
I'll show you my previous objection, Your Honor.
Okay. 47A through M in evidence over previously stated objection.
Let's take a look at states 73F through N. See if you recognize those pictures.
Yes, I do.
And are those fair and accurate pictures of that day, August 3rd, 2009?
Yes, they are.
Judge, I'd offer states, is it 40?
I thought it was 73.
73F through M, please.
Any objection to 73F through M?
I'll just review my previous objections, Your Honor.
All right, 73F through M in evidence over previously stated objection.
And let me show you states 46A through H, see if you recognize those photographs.
Yes, I do.
And are those fair and accurate depictions of the way the defendant and her husband's house looked back on August 3rd, 2009?
Yes, they are.
Judge, I offer states 46A through H into evidence.
Any objection to 46A through H?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, 46A through H in evidence without objection.
Perfect, thanks. All right. Let's start with 47A through M. Just going to go through them really quick. Just tell the jury what they are. Let me zoom in a little bit so they can see a little better. What are we looking at from the air on this photograph?
We're looking at the mobile gas station.
Okay, and this is the one that we talked about that was on High Ridge Road as soon as you
Yeah,
got
it's,
off Gateway.
Yes, that's 850 West Gateway, the exact
All right.
location in Miracle.
And then 47B, what's this an aerial image of?
That's the CVS.
All right, and that would be on the west side of Gateway, so the jury knows, Gateway would be here
Yes.
on my right-hand side. This is Congress?
Yes,
And then the defendant and her husband live down here.
yes.
Okay, and then the Chili's was over here.
Got it corner, yes.
All right, good. States 47C. Actually, it's just another picture of the gas station.
Yes, it is.
All right. Just gonna go through them real quick. And the last one. States 47I. What's that an aerial image of?
That's a picture of the LA Fitness.
And tell the jury where that is located in relation to the other things we're talking about.
That's actually on Quantum Boulevard, which would be from the Chili's. It's just north of that. It's the next street over. It's Quantum and Congress.
Quantum and Congress. So
Yes.
I head north on Congress, like I'm heading towards Jupiter. And is that, which side of the road is it on?
It's on the east side of the
East side
road,
of the
and
road.
it's your
Same
first.
side as the Chili's.
Yeah, it's the first right after Chili's.
Okay. All right, let's look at states 73F through M. All right, so this is state 73F. Back out a little bit. Is this the Chili's that we're talking about?
Yes, it is.
And is this actually the day of August 3rd of 2009?
Yes, it is.
After this phone call, number 7, between the defendant and Mr. Shahadi, did he head over to Chili's to meet her at the Chili's?
Yes.
Was it prior to Woody Jean showing up and where she got into his car and that video was going to be shown?
Yes, it was.
Overruled.
And is this Mr. Shahadi sitting outside the Chili's on a bench?
Yes, it is.
And what are we looking at in 73G?
That's the car that Mrs. Dalia drove into,
And
the
was
Tahoe.
Was she the driver of that vehicle?
Yes.
Is there anybody else on the vehicle?
No.
Is that just a photo of her getting out?
Yes.
Those are the clothes she was wearing on August 3rd of 2009?
Yes.
Let me go back to States 23, I think this is going to be 23A. The jury already saw this one. We handed that around. 1329, is that the residence where the murder was supposed to take place?
Yes.
Yes.
What's the address of the Dippolito residence?
It's 1329 Via de Pepe.
All right, so when the jury looks here, are these the residences on Via de Pepe?
Yes.
And when the jury looks on here, is that the address?
Yes.
That's the residence?
Yes, that's the front door.
All right, so when I look at states number 46A through H, we have some aerial views of it.
Yes.
When you look back between the two, so above 1329 is a 2-balcony unit,
Yes.
and then to the left is a single balcony unit.
Yes.
So when I look at the building down here, would this be the 2-balcony unit that's above the door, right down there, and then that would be the single balcony unit that's off to the left?
Yes.
So when we look at this from the aerial view, this would be unit 1329.
Yes.
And just a few different photos of the area of the neighborhood.
Yes.
Some upside down. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Detective Moreno.
How you doing, sir?
We met a few months back. How are you doing?
Good, real good.
Good, good. Did you ever speak to the person at Boynton Beach PD who took the first phone call from Mohammed Shahade?
The first phone call?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Who took that phone call?
Well, I talked to Detective Ace Brown, who was the original detective that made contact with Mr. Mohammed.
Did you ever come to learn that Mr. Shahade had reported a domestic abuse claim?
Hearsay, relevance.
Approach.
Detective Moreno, I'll withdraw my question and ask you a different question. Did you conduct any investigation into whether Dalia Dippolito was abused by Michael Dippolito?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you do anything to contact Miss Dippolito at all?
Who?
Dalia Dippolito.
When?
At any point in time?
Well, no, when we originally got this case, I didn't even know who she was. So at that point, there was no way for me to make contact with her because I didn't know who she was.
Okay. Do you think, as the lead detective on the investigation, it might be important to know who it is that Mr. Shahade was reporting about these allegations?
Of course, that's part of the investigation. He didn't.
Overruled.
Of course, that was the original investigation that was assigned to me. He provided partial information in reference to this. Once we started the investigation, we later found out as who she was and who the future victim was going to be.
Right, but isn't it true that you immediately directed Mohammed Shahade to contact Ms. Dippolito to set up a meeting with her and have it videotaped without knowing anything about Ms. Dippolito? Isn't that true?
Yes, because all we had was the first name of Dalia. That's all we had.
Right, but wouldn't it have been, don't you think that it's important to find out who this woman is, do a background search on her, find out if she has any prior criminal record, before you command Mr. Shahade to set up a meeting with her?
That was the whole purpose of the meeting, to identify her, because we didn't know who she was.
Okay.
We didn't have no clue who she was. All we had was the name of Dalia. We didn't have anything further than that, and he couldn't provide us any further information. So there was no way of me possible to even go any further with it because I didn't have it.
Well, Detective Moreno, isn't it true, though, that the reason behind you setting up that meeting with Shahade and Ms. Dippolito at the gas station wasn't to find out more about Dalia Dippolito, it was to try to get her on tape saying that she wanted to kill her husband. Isn't that true?
Well, the original, like I said, the whole meeting, we didn't know who she was. The informant only provided us half of the information. First name, actually. We didn't have anything else. We didn't know where she lived. We didn't know her last name. We didn't know date of birth, none of that. Of course, throughout the investigation, in that first meeting, we ended up finding out who she was by the tags, getting the information, and then, of course, doing the videotape of that conversation, it turns out that the information he was giving us, it was credible because they initially, right off the bat, began talking about it. So we found out that information was credible.
Let's talk about Mohammed Shahade. He contacts the Boynton Beach PD, and you tell him to come into the police department, correct?
Yes.
All right. And did you find him to be honest and trustworthy?
At first, I didn't know what to think because when we first had the conversation with him, he mentioned how he had a sexual relationship with the defendant, but couldn't provide her name or anything like that. All he had was a first name. So right off the bat, I was, questioning his statements. Of course, once we got deeper into the investigation, it turns out the information that he did provide us, it was validated by the videotapes, phone conversations, and all the surveillance we conducted.
Okay, but let's get back to my question now. My question is, before I ask the question again, how long did you speak to Mr. Shahade when he came into the Boynton Beach Police Department on was it August 1st?
Yes.
All right, how long did you speak to him?
I spoke with him that one time from the time that I arrived, and then I can't tell you the exact time, but it was hours. The detectives prior to that talked to him before I did, and the case was assigned to me.
Okay. Would you appoint a confidential informant in an alleged murder-for-hire plot if you believed that he was untrustworthy?
Well, by the time I got the case, we was already signed off as a confidential informant by Detective Brown. Like I said,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm trying to, with all due respect, Ron, I think it requires a yes or no answer.
Listen carefully to the question.
Okay.
Respond directly to the question. If you have to explain your answer, you can, but first directly respond to the question.
Sure.
if you could just, trying to be being respectful with you. I just want
No,
to
I understand.
Just try to focus on the question for a minute. Let's back up. Let me lay a little bit more foundation. You mentioned Ace Brown, but Ace Brown wasn't the lead detective on the case, was he?
No.
Right. So who at Boynton Beach PD is going to make the decision that Mohammed Shahadi is going to be the confidential informant?
He was already signed off as a confidential informant prior to me getting the case.
But who signed off?
It wasn't me at the time. It was already Detective Ace Brown.
And by the way, did you have any training at all? Well, isn't it true that you didn't have any training at all at Boynton Beach PD on how to handle a solicitation to murder case, did you?
It was my first one as a lead detective on it, but it was my second one being involved in one.
But just to be clear, you were the lead detective on the
Yes.
case, not Ace Brown, correct?
Yes.
All right, so even if Ace Brown says, oh, Mohammed Shahadi's approved as a confidential informant, you were the ultimate person who would decide that he's going to go and call Dalia Dippolito, correct?
Yes.
All right. So now that we established that, did you or would you appoint a confidential informant if you believed that that person was not trustworthy?
No.
All right, great. So did you overall find Mr. Shahadi to be a trustworthy person?
Yes.
All right, great. Well, Mr. Shahadi, or let me ask you this. Did you contact Mr. Shahadi numerous times by phone to get him to call Dalia Dippolito?
Yes.
All right. So you were anxious to get him to call Dalia Dippolito, isn't that true?
We use the word anxious to describe that.
Well, if Shahadi comes in here and says you were calling him 10 times a day to call Miss Dippolito, is he lying?
I wouldn't say 10 times a day, no. We didn't have any conversations where it was 10 times a day, no.
How many times a day were you calling Shahadi to say, hey, call Dalia Dippolito?
Every conversation that was done throughout this investigation where I was involved in making the phone calls, everything was documented and recorded. I couldn't tell you the exact amount of calls that we made, but everything that was made in my presence or three-way, it was recorded.
Okay, so, all right, getting back to my question, how many times then did you insist that Mohammed Shahadi call and contact Dalia Dippolito?
I'd have to review my records and see how many phone calls.
You're saying it's not 10 times, but numerous times, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, so if you had to contact Mr. Shahadi at least numerous times to have him contact Dalia Dippolito, doesn't that signal to you in your mind that he doesn't want to be involved in this investigation?
No.
All right, so you just told me that you thought Mr. Shahadi's trustworthy, right?
Yes.
All right, so he's a liar if he walks into court and says that you pressured him to be in this investigation.
Sustained, Mr. Claypool.
I can assure you.
The objection was sustained.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, did you at any time in this investigation learn about what Mr. Shahadi's intent was when he contacted Boynton Beach PD?
Yes.
Judge, I'm going to object to the relevance and it's hearsay.
Overruled.
Okay. Did you ever learn that he did not want to be involved?
No. During my investigation, I did not.
Did you ever speak to Ace Brown about Mr. Shahadi?
Yes.
Who did the initial meeting with Mr. Shahadi?
They made contact the day before I got involved.
Right, July 31st, right?
Yes.
2009. And
Yes.
who's they?
I was Sergeant Ramsey and Detective Ace Brown.
Do you know whether the first meeting with Mr. Shahadi was recorded?
I do not recall. No.
Did you speak to any of the detectives who first interviewed Mr. Shahadi to find out what he said?
Yeah, they provided me a brief information over the phone, and then, of course, once I got to the office, they gave me more information in reference to the case.
Did they tell you they were laughing during the interview?
I don't recall that.
Did they tell you they thought his story was bizarre?
I thought it was bizarre.
You thought it was bizarre, yes. You thought Mr. Shahadi's story was bizarre, but yet you immediately instructed him to contact Dalia Dippolito, and he was approved as an undercover confidential
It was bizarre
informant.
to the fact that, according to him, he's had a sexual relationship and he only had the first name of Dalia, which at that time it didn't make sense to me.
Well, Detective Moreno, isn't it true that a confidential informant should never be used in an undercover investigation when he has had a prior sexual relationship with the suspect, correct?
No.
So you, just so I'm clear, you believe it's appropriate, let me finish, you believe it's appropriate to have a gentleman who's had a previous sexual relationship to be assigned and anointed as a confidential informant in an undercover investigation?
If somebody's life depends on it, yes, we do. 'Cause
Let's talk about that. You keep saying that somebody's life's at stake here. At any point in time, did you contact Mike Dippolito and let him know, hey, your wife's going to kill you? You ever do that?
Yes, we did.
You did that when the Cops TV show was filming?
No, we did that the initial, when she arrived at the scene, before she arrived on the scene, and we made contact with them. And yes, the show Cops was there.
Isn't it true, Detective Moreno, that the first time that anybody from the Boynton Beach Police Department ever notified Mike Dippolito that his life was in danger was with a bunch of folks from the Cops TV show with cameras at his condo, correct?
Yes.
Right. So if you truly believed that Mike, well, let me ask you this, let me withdraw that question. Back on August 1st, 2009, Mr. Williams played you some phone calls, you saw a videotape, remember all that?
Yes.
Right. When you heard those phone calls and you saw that videotape on August 1st, 2009, did you believe that Mike Dippolito was going to be killed?
If we didn't interfere in this, yes.
Okay, so your answer is yes, right?
Yes.
So why didn't you contact Mike Dippolito on August 1st, 2009 and say, hey, your life is in danger? Why didn't you do that?
Well, this was an ongoing investigation. Like I said, that first time we had the meeting, it was part of the investigation, and that was just one small puzzle of this whole case.
All right. Did you contact any security and assign that to Mike Dippolito on August 1st, 2009?
No.
Do you know of anybody at Boynton Beach Police Department who assigned or hired any security protection for Mike Dippolito at any point in time prior to you and the Cops folks going over to Mike's condo?
No.
Now, in listening to some of these phone calls we heard between Mohammed Shahadi and Ms. Dippolito, did you notice that Mr. Shahadi was raising his voice at certain times in those phone calls?
Yes.
All right. Well, did that alert you that maybe he's being a little bit too aggressive in these calls?
No.
No, that didn't concern you at all?
No.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but when I was listening to those phone calls, it almost sounded like Mr. Shahadi was under the influence of some kind of maybe medication. True?
And one of this, yeah, in a few of those phone calls, you couldn't understand some of the stuff that he said.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're hearing these calls, right? You're the lead guy, right? The top dog on this, right?
I want to use that word
Right.
to describe
Well,
myself.
Yeah, that's,
I was the lead detective on it.
You're the lead detective.
Yeah.
Right, I apologize.
Yeah, there was people above me. They were top dogs on that.
Okay, well, but you're the lead detective, right?
Yes.
You're basically, let me phrase it differently for you to be fair. You're in the trenches on this, right?
Yes.
All right, and then above you was Sergeant Sheridan?
Yes.
Okay. And Sergeant Ramsey was somewhat involved?
Yes.
As well? Okay. Did you ever ask Mohammed Shahadi, hey, are you taking any drugs?
No, that I can recall, no.
That didn't concern you at all? No.
I didn't ask.
Right. Now, did you ever think that because Mr. Shahadi had a prior sexual relationship with Dalia Dippolito, that maybe he might have some kind of undue influence on her?
No.
No, that, okay. And the reason I ask you, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I even heard in those audio tapes, or the video, I heard them saying to each other, I love you. You heard that, right?
Yes.
That kind of stuck out in my mind. So I'm thinking, if I'm the lead detective on the case, did you ever sit back and think, wait a minute, I think these two, there's something going on here, romantically?
It didn't change the facts of what was going around besides those phone calls. They'll love you. It was one of those things that there was other things in that video that was more important than two people telling each other that they love each other.
Well, you're as a lead detective, aren't you concerned about preserving the integrity of a police investigation?
Of course.
All right. Well, isn't part of preserving the integrity of a police investigation to make sure that the confidential informant doesn't have an existing romantic or sexual relationship with the suspect? Would you agree with that?
I agree to the extent, but if I can explain, this was one of the situations that an ex-lover or future lover came to us to provide us this information. I didn't know him from the day before that, or I didn't know who Dalia was. All we had the information from the informant was that he was involved with this girl that wanted her husband killed. That's the information that I got. Of course, was it credible at first? We didn't know what to think. Just that basic information that we got until we got further, of course, into the investigation.
Well, is it true that the folks at Boynton Beach PD were moving this along pretty quick because they had an August 5th date with the Cops TV show?
I can't speak on that. I don't.
Well,
I didn't have nothing to do with the show Cops.
You knew, Detective Moreno, you knew that the Cops TV show was filming at the Boynton Beach Police Department, correct?
I knew that the show Cops was filming, but they weren't involved in any of the filming of my investigation. The only time they were involved in this case was at the end when we made contact with Mr. Mike Dippolito. They were present at that time, but anything before that, they were not involved in it, in my investigation.
Right, but they filmed that, right?
The initial,
Dippolito's house.
yeah, but the initial contact with Mr. Dippolito, yes, they were there, but anything prior to that, no.
Well, did you ever obtain consent from Mr. Mohammed Shahadi to have his car videotaped?
Yes, we did.
So if he comes in and says no, he's lying again, right?
It's sustained.
Do you have anything in writing that you could show us?
There's
Oh, hold on. Ask the question and then.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
Yeah, did you document the fact that you obtained written consent from Mohammed Shahadi to have his car wired for videotape?
It was wired for audio, and we did have the form that he filled out. Of course, I don't have it with me and nothing like that, but it was documented, yes.
Your testimony is it's documented that there was consent from...
As I recall, yes.
Regarding videotape. Okay, where would that documentation be?
I don't know if it says specifically that videotape, but there is in my reports I write that there was consensual by Mr. Mohammed for the conversations to be recorded.
When did you first get involved in the investigation?
August 1st.
Okay. From August 1st to August 5th, 2009, did you initiate any kind of surveillance on Dalia Dippolito?
Between the 1st and 5th?
Let's start with the 1st and 3rd of 2009.
Go ahead, ask me the question.
Right. Let me try to make it easier for you. Let's focus on the August 1st, 2009 phone calls and the videotape of Mohammed Shahadi and Dalia Dippolito. After you saw that video, did you immediately send out surveillance on Dalia Dippolito?
No.
So if you thought that Dalia Dippolito was going to kill her husband on August 1st, 2009, don't you think that as the lead detective you should have sent some surveillance out on Dalia Dippolito if you truly believed that she was going to kill her husband to make sure she doesn't kill her husband?
Well, She was hiring the cops to kill her husband, so we were the ones that were going to be in charge of that. So,
Detective Moreno, I'll move to strike. The answer is non-responsive. Detective Moreno, let me try the question again. It just requires a yes or no answer, respectfully. I'm just trying to find out, is yes or no. Do you believe that it would have been appropriate to have surveillance done on Dalia Dippolito on August 1st, 2009, after you saw the videotape, if you truly believed that Dalia Dippolito was going to kill her husband, Mike Dippolito?
no.
And do you know how it is that Mohammed Shahadi found out that he was videotaped?
I don't know.
Well, it ended up on YouTube, didn't it?
Later on, I guess, yes.
The tape ended up on YouTube, right?
Later on, yes,
Right.
it did.
And somebody from Boynton Beach Police Department did that, right?
Definitely, it wasn't me.
Oh, I'm not saying it's you, but you heard of Stephanie Slater?
Yes.
Right.
So this is all beyond the scope.
Your Honor, clear.
Just approach for a minute.
Detective Moreno, do you know what a directive is?
No.
Pardon?
I'm sorry. Say that
Do
again?
you know what a directive is?
In what sense?
A directive at the Boynton Beach Police Department.
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
Well, it's an SOP It's a standard operation.
What is an SOP?
Well, it's a standard operation rules that we have for the police department.
Is it like a policy and procedure?
Yes.
All right, great. So policies and procedures at Boynton Beach PD are created for the officers at the police department to follow?
Yes.
So back in August of 2009, wouldn't you agree with me that it would be inappropriate, and a violation of Boynton Beach PD directives to have a member of Boynton Beach PD post on YouTube video footage of Dalia Dippolito during a pending criminal investigation?
Judge, I want to check for the relevance and lack of knowledge, speculation, hearsay.
Okay. Overruled.
I'd have to go back and look at that, but I definitely didn't suggest that.
I'm sorry?
I'd have to go back and look at that SOP.
You've
but
got to go back and look at
yeah,
the
yes.
Don't you think, Detective Moreno, that video footage taken of a suspect in an alleged murder for hire case should never be distributed to the public while the investigation is pending?
Yes.
So in this case, you would be critical of the fact that the Boynton Beach PD, if they did, and I prove it, that they did distribute video footage on YouTube of Ms. Dippolito?
Of the suspect that day of the contact, yes.
Yes, you would be critical. Thank you. Now, are you familiar with the term controlling an informant?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me generally what that means in the context of an undercover investigation.
Controlling an informant is like, as I've experienced it through my career, is having, let's say if we're doing a drug deal with an informant, we want to keep visual on him, make sure we pat him down that he doesn't have any contraband or anything like that before making any contact with anybody. You know, just giving him direction is part of the investigation.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I think because of my allergies, my hearing's a little not as good, so that's why I'm moving closer. I'm not trying to.
You're okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying
No,
to.
no, that's all right.
Intimidate you at all.
No, not at all.
I'm not trying to do that.
Not at all.
So, do you recall back in August 2009 whether there was a directive in place at Boynton Beach PD that spoke to the issue of controlling informants?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall whether there was a directive that indicated that if a confidential informant says that he does not want to be involved in the investigation, that it's required of the lead detective to remove the confidential informant from the investigation?
I'd have to review that to see exactly what it says, but that was never said to me by my informant, no.
So just so we're clear, back on August 1st, 2009, would it be safe to say that you were not aware of the fact that a Boynton Beach PD directive required the supervisor in charge of the investigation to remove a confidential informant if he or she says, I don't want to be involved?
Yeah, of course, if someone doesn't want to participate in the investigation, but in this situation, as being the lead detective on it, and me under control of this case, it was never told to me at all by the informant.
But maybe I wasn't clear. Let me try it again. I wasn't asking you what the informant told you. What I was asking you is, did you know back on August 1st, 2009, whether, pursuant to a directive at Boynton Beach PD, that if the confidential informant says, I don't want to be involved in this investigation, would it have been required of the lead investigator to immediately remove the confidential informant?
Yes, I'd have to see the exact wording on that SOP, but
Let me, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to identify and mark as Exhibit 1 for the defense a July 23rd, 2007 directive of the Boynton Beach PD.
You could just mark it for ID, you get a refresh recollection, is that what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, here.
You can mark it for ID.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may approach.
Thank you.
Is there a highlighted area?
I think I've
Okay,
highlighted.
perfect.
You can help me. I think I might have highlighted portions for you. You could take a moment, with the court's permission, Detective Moreno, to look at the portions of Exhibit 1, Defense Exhibit 1.
Reviewed it.
Okay, thank you. Do you, so is Defense Exhibit 1 in fact a directive that existed at the Boynton Beach PD in August of 2009?
Yes.
All right, great, thank you. If you can please refer to page 3 of Exhibit 1.
Yes, sir.
Let me withdraw that question, Your Honor. Let me move forward to page 5 of Exhibit 1, and it's subsection B. If you could read that first sentence for us.
On section B?
Yeah, please.
All right. If each informant...
Yeah, approach for just a minute.
Let me just ask you generally, Detective Moreno. Do you believe that on August 1st, 2009, that pursuant to the policies and procedures at Boynton Beach Police Department, that you would have been required to remove Mohammed Shahadi as a confidential informant if he in fact did communicate that he did not want to be on the investigation anymore?
Yes, if you would have related that to me, of course.
And the reason why you would have wanted to remove him from the investigation, if in fact we're able to prove that he told that to you, to the jury, is because you want to ensure the integrity of the investigation.
Of course, and I mean, we're not going to force anybody to be involved in something they don't want to do. I mean.
And why is it that you would not want to force a confidential informant to be involved in an investigation if he didn't want to be involved?
Well, it's self-explanatory. If somebody doesn't want to help or assist us in an investigation, there's not much that we can do. In this situation, it was not the case.
So would you agree with me that if an individual who is a confidential informant says that he does not want to be involved in the investigation, that he really is of no further use to the police department?
Yes.
By the way, have you ever received any domestic abuse calls prior to August 1st, 2009?
I mean...
Yeah, as a detective, were you ever required to investigate prior to August 1st, 2009?
Reference to this case or in general?
I'm asking about your normal your general protocol, your past experiences. Were you ever called upon as a detective at Boynton Beach PD to investigate a claim of domestic violence?
As a detective, no. That I can recall. As a police officer for 19 years, I mean, to this day, I'm handling them, so, I mean, I can't tell you how many numbers, but hundreds of domestics I've been involved investigating and stuff.
I'm a little confused. You have been involved in domestic violence?
Yeah, as a detective, I can't go back and think of something like that. Said as a police officer, yes, I've been involved in hundreds.
So what would you have customarily done based on your prior experience in investigating a claim of domestic violence?
Well, I mean, it's a broad question, but I mean, as a police officer, we respond to, wherever they send us. It comes out as a domestic. We get there, we interview whoever is involved. If anybody's injured or anything like that, we, get them some medical treatment. And then we have to investigate who the aggressor is and determine if there was a crime committed.
So you would want to interview the alleged victim of the domestic violence?
Of course.
As part of your investigation?
Of course.
Right. And what's the purpose of that?
Well, the alleged victim, we got to get their side of the story and what happened. And since, we're there to investigate the whole case to determine what we have.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about some of these recorded phone calls between Mr. Shahadi and Ms. Dippolito. Would it be fair to say that you instructed Mr. Shahadi to make each and every phone calls that Mr. Williams played for the jury?
Yes.
So Mr. Shahadi didn't volunteer to do that, correct?
No, in some of those phone calls that you hear, he's actually contacted me first, telling me he was contacted by Dippolito, and some of those are him making the phone call 3 ways. So I was able to record the conversation. And one of the conversations that we listened to, it was the defendant calling him right after the hitman called her, and that's when he would call us with the information, and we conduct a 3-way call. So in certain incidents, he would contact me in reference to setting up the appointment with her to meet the hitman. Of course, I instructed Mr. Mohammed to make the phone calls.
But the phone calls that have been played by Mr. Williams to the jury, those phone calls you instructed Mr. Shahadi to contact Ms. Dippolito?
Yes.
And there were other phone conversations between Mr. Shahadi and Ms. Dippolito between August 1st and August 3rd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of whether well, isn't it true that you did not have all of those phone calls recorded?
Yes.
Okay. And why is it that some phone calls were recorded and some phone calls were not recorded?
Well, some of these phone calls, even though he was my informant, I wasn't there 24/7 with him. Of course, just like everybody else, you know, I work a shift, 8 to 4, and I go home. Some of the phone calls we couldn't control. If the defendant called him, and of course I can't be there to record these conversations. We were, you know, fortunate enough that some of the calls that she did call in reference to the case, he would contact me immediately. I would direct him to make the phone call, and a 3-way phone call, and I was able to record some of them. So.
Well, Detective Moreno, isn't it true that on August 1st, 2009, the Boynton Beach PD had equipment available that they could have put on Mr. Shahadi's phone to make sure that all of the phone calls that he made to Ms. Dippolito, and if she made any to him, were recorded?
And equipment that can be put on the phone?
Yeah. Let me ask you this way. Is it your testimony that in August 1st, 2009, there was no way to record any phone calls between Muhammad Shahadi and Dalia Dippolito other than if you were sitting there in the police station?
No, of course. You can record a conversation with a digital recorder. You can get given a digital recorder, but I was not present to witness those phone calls or anything like that. Like I said, I wasn't with him 24/7.
But you know you're not going to be with Mr. Shahadi 24/7, correct?
Yes.
But you never instructed him to make sure to try to record any further phone calls he had with Ms. Dippolito. Isn't that true?
Yes.
All right. And there was a means for Mr. Shahadi to record phone calls with Ms. Dippolito when he's not in your presence, correct?
I mean, I could have given him a digital player, but I didn't. Like I said, if I wasn't present, I wasn't able to witness that or control the phone call or certify the phone call.
All right, but that wasn't my question. My question is, you just said digital recording. What does that mean? Let's try this one.
It's a digital recorder. I mean, as you guys remember, we used to use tapes. Now it's digital. We download it to the computer. You know, I couldn't testify to those phone calls because I wasn't present. I couldn't. For me to give my recorder to somebody else that I can't testify or be present at the time, I didn't make that decision to do that, no.
You didn't make the decision to do that?
No.
So, isn't it true that all phone calls between the confidential informant and the suspect should be recorded to ensure the integrity of the investigation?
Of course, yes.
But in this case, there were some phone calls between the confidential informant, Mr. Shahadi, and Ms. Dippolito that were not recorded.
Yes.
And there is a potential for the investigation to have been compromised because of the fact that we don't have audio recordings of all the phone calls between Mr. Shahadi and Ms. Dippolito. Isn't that true?
There's always a potential, of course.
Okay, great. And the reason why you want to have all phone calls recorded between the confidential informant and the suspect, in this case, Ms. Dippolito, is to eliminate any kind of speculation as to what might have been discussed between the confidential informant and the suspect. Isn't that true?
Yes, in a perfect world, yes. If me dealing with informants, if I'm out there and they're recording this conversation, I can't testify to that because I wasn't there. Even though it's on video, on a recorder and the informant's doing it, I can't testify to the facts of that because I didn't witness it. I was not in control of it, so I didn't have that capability on this situation, no.
I don't know. I apologize. I didn't understand what you meant by you didn't have the capability.
Of recording every conversation and me being there present doing every conversation.
That wasn't what I was suggesting.
Oh, okay.
You have to physically be there for every conversation. My question is, there were other mechanical and audio means that Shahadi could have used to record conversations between him and Ms. Dippolito.
The only thing that I could suggest would have been my digital recorder that I would have provided to him, but...
Don't you? I'm not trying to be difficult, but this is an alleged murder for hire investigation. Don't you think that it was important to get your digital recorder to Muhammad Shahadi in case he's having phone conversations with Dalia Dippolito? What were you worried about?
Well, not so much worry about, but I'd be sitting here arguing with him that I witnessed those phone calls, or was I present during those phone calls? Of course not. So I would be in the same argument here if I was even present during the informant's conversations. Of course, if he's home and he's being contacted by the defendant, or they're on the road, like in one of those phone calls, she called him on the road, he contacted me and I was able to put that on a three-way phone call and be able to record it with my own digital recorder, and I witnessed it. So I can testify to that. Anything after that, when he was not in my presence, I can't.
Your testimony is you can't do any, back in August 2009, is your testimony, you couldn't do anything to ensure that phone calls made after 5 o'clock in the evening could not be recorded between Shahadi and Dalia Dippolito?
Overruled.
Unless the Boynton Beach Police Department was willing to send me home with Mr. Mohammed for me to witness those and be in control of Mr. Mohammed 24/7, no.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so isn't it true then, Detective Moreno, that you lost control of Mohammed Shahadi every day from 5 o'clock till when?
Well, I wouldn't use the word control. I have to go home, and like everybody else, I clock in, I clock out.
I'm not challenging the fact.
I know, but I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. I clock out. They don't send me home with informants. I don't go home and sleep in their house or nothing like that. So, you know, it's one of those things that it is what it is.
It is what it is, that in a murder for hire investigation, that the confidential informant leaves at 5 o'clock, or you leave at 5 o'clock, and the confidential informant basically is on his own to talk to a suspect and have many conversations unrecorded, correct?
Said I've answered that question. I can't be there 24/7. I can't. It's just impossible.
But you had a digital recorder, correct?
Yes.
And you could have given the digital recorder you had to Mr. Shahadi to utilize after 5 o'clock when you left, correct?
Said I wasn't there to witness. I couldn't give him my digital recorder. I'm not there to witness that phone call. I can't testify what number that he dialed. I wasn't able to. It just wasn't something that I thought about based on the fact that I would be having this argument that I wouldn't be able to testify to the facts of that phone call from my informant having my recorder. I just can't. It would be played and I couldn't testify to that because I didn't witness it, didn't record it myself, so I would be having the same argument.
So would it be fair to say then that there's a risk of the investigation being compromised after you leave at 5 o'clock?
There's always a risk. You know, in this situation, like I said, the stuff that I did collect and evidence in the phone calls.
Well, the evidence you collected was exclusively you directing Ms. Dippolito to make phone calls to... I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize. The evidence you collected is confined to phone calls you instructed Shahadi to make to Dalia Dippolito. That's it. Correct?
No.
Do you have any audio recordings of any other phone calls that Mohammed Shahadi had with Dalia Dippolito other than the phone calls we heard in court today?
No.
And if there were additional phone calls made between Mohammed Shahadi and Dalia Dippolito between August 1st and August 3rd, that would be very important in the investigation to have audio recordings of those calls, correct?
Of course.
And again, the reason why is it ensures credibility and integrity in this investigation, correct?
Yes.
Because we want to know, or the Boynton Beach PD wants to know what's being discussed between Shahadi and Dippolito, correct?
Yes.
We would want to know, for example, if possibly Shahadi is coercing Dippolito, correct?
That's an if question.
You would want to know that, wouldn't you?
Well, no, I mean, but you're asking me an if question. Of course, like I explained and I answered before, if I could have been there 24/7 to record every conversation, I would have. But unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
Okay. That wasn't the question.
I can't answer your if question.
Okay. Well, my question is this, Detective Moreno. It's not an if question. It's what's the proper procedure in an investigation. And my question is this. Isn't the reason why you would want to have all phone calls recorded between a confidential informant and a suspect in a murder for hire investigation is to ensure, one reason why, is to ensure that the confidential informant is not putting pressure on the suspect. Isn't that one reason?
Yes.
Okay. And because we don't have audio recordings of many phone calls between Shahade and Dippolito during the investigation, there is a risk that that could have happened, correct?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about this encounter we had discussed at Chili's. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Right. Now, isn't it true that the reason why Mohammed Shahade had to have a get-together with Dalia Dippolito at Chili's on August 3rd, 2009, was because Boynton Beach PD was worried that she was backing out of this?
That's the first time I'm hearing that from you. I don't know.
There would have been no need for Mr. Shahade to meet with Dalia Dippolito at Chili's before meeting Witty Jean, correct?
Yes, if you were paying attention to the audio that we played earlier, she personally requested Mr. Mohammed to be present.
She said she needed to talk, right?
No, she asked in the recordings that he would be present when she met with the undercover agent. It's clearly said in the phone calls. She requested that he be present.
She also said, I need to talk to you, didn't she?
Yes.
Right? And wouldn't you agree with me, Detective Moreno, that it would have been incumbent and mandatory of Boynton Beach PD to make sure that that 45-minute encounter between Shahade and Dippolito at Chili's was recorded?
Yes.
And why would it have been important to have that 45-minute conversation in Chili's recorded?
Of course, if we would have had that conversation recorded, we could have had either more evidence or no evidence at all.
Exactly. You could have had no evidence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me, why it is, if you know, that there is no audio recording of the Chili's encounter between Shahade and Dippolito?
So this was a flowing investigation. During one of those phone calls, she did want to meet up with Mr. Mohammed. We didn't have an opportunity to wire him to get him before he met up with her. So it was not one of those things that we anticipated, and it didn't happen. So I wish I could have done that? Yeah, of course, but we didn't have the time, or it's just one of those things that it was flowing, and our main concern was to get, Ms. Dippolito to meet with the undercover agent.
Right, but you said a few minutes ago time was on your side, right?
I said that?
Okay, I withdraw that. That's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I never said that.
You didn't say that, and I apologize for that. But what you did say about 15 minutes ago is that you had control, basically, of Ms. Dippolito. In other words, she was working with your folks, right, on this alleged murder for hire. So you were not as worried about what she would do, correct? You had control of the situation?
I didn't have control of Ms. Dippolito, but I did have control of the investigation.
But you had control of it. She was working with your folks, so what was the rush?
She wasn't working with us. She was.
You had her control. You had her set up to meet with Witty Jean. What's the rush?
She's not working with us. She was a defendant.
Yeah, but I know you're smiling about it, but how many officers did you have around the Chili's restaurant?
Because you're putting words in my mouth. She wasn't working for us or with us.
Unfortunately, being a lawyer this long,
I know. I
apologize.
That's all right. Sometimes I can't help my smile either.
I really do. I really do apologize. I don't want to put words in your mouth because this is an important case, and I know you're doing the best you can. I respect that. But my question deals with the fact that you had many officers surrounding Chili's restaurant, correct?
Yes.
In fact, I've heard upwards of 12 or 13, right?
I couldn't tell you how many.
There are a lot, right?
I don't know if it was 12 or 13.
Well, how many? Give me an estimate.
I don't know. I don't
More
know.
than 5?
Most likely, yes.
All right, great. So you would agree that the whole area around Chili's was secured, right?
Yes.
All right. And you had other folks waiting down at the what is it, CVS, where Whitty Jean was?
Yes.
So you had pretty much most of the Boynton Beach PD employed out there that day, right, on August 3rd, 2009?
I wouldn't say that.
You had a lot of folks there, right, from
Yeah.
Boynton Beach PD.
There
Now, how
was-
many people did you have, not to put words in your mouth again, how many people did you have over at CVS?
There were several people, numerous people around the CVS building, but I couldn't tell you the exact number.
Right, at least a handful there, right?
Yes.
All right, so probably at least 10 members of the Boynton Beach PD between Chili's and CVS, correct, on August 3rd, 2009?
I couldn't tell you the exact number.
But you would agree with me, though, you had that area completely secured, right?
Yes.
Right, Miss Dippolito wasn't going to hop in a helicopter and fly away, was she?
How do I even answer that? No,
I'm being facetious.
I know. That's why I don't know what answer you want from me on that.
I get it, but and the point I'm trying to get at is you said there was an immediate need to get Mohammed Shahadi in that Chili's, right?
I didn't say that.
I thought you said a few minutes ago you had to get him in there, and you folks didn't have time to go out and get any wiring for him, right?
No, I didn't say that there was an immediate to get him inside Chili's. I said I didn't have time to meet up with Mr. Mohammed and wire him up. I didn't. And it was a fluent situation. She requested to meet with him at Chili's before that, and we couldn't get to him to wire him up prior to that meeting.
As you sit here today, do you know whether Mohammed Shahadi was wired when he went into Chili's?
By me, no. Or by any of us, by the Boynton Beach Police Department, no.
You would have expected that he should have been wired, correct? Fair statement?
If I would have had the opportunity, of course. Yes, of course.
And have you ever been in a situation where a wiring malfunctions?
Yes, yes, I have.
Was it this situation or a different one?
No, as an undercover officer.
Oh, you have been, okay.
Yeah, I've been wired myself and found myself in a bad situation where my wire wasn't working, and I had to run out because the guys that were backing me up didn't hear me.
Have you ever been in a situation where an informant had wiring in a situation meeting with a suspect and the wiring was malfunctioned?
I'd have to go back. I can't recall.
Do you remember back in August 2009 whether there was a directive in place at the Boynton Beach PD that spoke to the issue of whether a malfunction of a wiring should be a reason to allow an informant to meet with a suspect?
You'd have to show me the...
Let me do that.
Yeah, so I can see directly what it says.
I'd like to identify and mark as Exhibit 2, Your Honor.
2 for ID? Okay.
It's a June 22nd, 2009. It's entitled Boynton Beach Police Department Index Code. Index Code 1622.
Okay. So it's Defense 2 for ID at this time?
Pardon?
Defense 2 for ID at this time?
Yes, for identification. Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, may I have a second to find the...
Yes, could you all approach for just 1 second, since we've got pause in the action here? Members of the jury, that was frankly just logistics. We're trying to figure out what to do in terms of when to break, and we've decided that it's an appropriate time at this point to break for the evening. We're bumping up against the 5 o'clock hour. We did tell you we try to break at 5 o'clock each night, and we won't be able to complete Detective Moreno's testimony within a reasonable time, so we're going to bring him back tomorrow morning. Just a couple of instructions. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you to come back. I'm actually going to push it back a few minutes because I'm going to ask you to be back at 9:45, and the reason I'm asking you to come back at 9:45 instead of 9:30 is that's 15 more minutes you won't be wasting waiting for me, because I just know with the morning docket, it's probably going to take me a little time to get you in here. So if I bring you at 9:45 as opposed to 9:30, that's an extra 15 minutes that you're not waiting on me, hopefully. So we'll say 9:45. The same rules apply. Let me just ask this question generally. I was going to ask a little bit earlier. Since last night, when you were sworn as the jurors in the case, anyone listen to or read any news accounts of this trial, even inadvertently? Okay, good. All right. I'm going to give you that instruction again as we release you for this evening. I know you're getting tired of hearing it. It's important that I give it to you. That instruction is do not communicate concerning this case with anyone, including communications amongst yourselves. Do not do any research with respect to the case. Do not listen to or read any news accounts of the trial. With that said, we're going to discharge you for this evening. Your notepads will be locked up overnight in the jury room. Have a safe drive home and a pleasant evening. Oh, Neil, did you get their letters? Did you get the letters?
Right here.
Okay. It's just the letters for their employers. Detective Moreno, you're going to be able to step down. We'll need you back here tomorrow at 9:45. You're under oath. Please do not discuss your testimony with anyone.
Thank you.
But you are discharged at this time until tomorrow morning. What I wanted to speak to you about is trying to make things, if possible, run smoother tomorrow with respect to any exhibits that are going to be offered. So I don't know what exhibits are going to be offered tomorrow, but I would like them, to the extent they haven't been reviewed by defense, review them, make sure you understand what's coming up. And if I've got additional objections, particularly with regard to videos, because it's very difficult to redact videos in the middle of a trial. It needs to be done in advance. So I don't know what's coming up tomorrow in terms of videos. I've been told that the video tomorrow is not going to have the subtitles. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're not going to use the one that's in evidence. We're going to take another one in. The one that's without the subtitles.
Right.
The one in evidence for the first trial has subtitles out.
Subtitles, but those have to be removed. And Mr. Claypool, if you had, or Mr. Roosevelt, have you had a chance to review this video?
Here's the problem, and I mean, the state allegedly, pardon me, the state did, I don't want to, just got it from the clerk today, and, you know, it's hard for us to see exactly what versions of the tape they're going to put in, especially in regard to the subtitles. I mean, Mr. Claypool saw that at 12:58 on October and saw that, and I hadn't had a chance to confer with him before Your Honor came back in. So it put us in a precarious situation.
Well, I'm assuming the tapes were produced during the course of discovery, were they not? I mean, we don't.
Well, not with the.
Not with the subtitles. Well, they shouldn't have subtitles. That's what I'm saying.
Your Honor, respectfully, I'll take part of the responsibility. Ms. Laurie did ask me to look at the video, so it's not entirely her fault. I was preoccupied preparing. I looked at it for a little bit. I did see a little bit underneath. I simply didn't make the connection. Partly my fault too. So.
Okay. Well, I just want to, candidly, at this point, I'm tired. I don't want to cast blame either. I just want to make sure that, if possible, things run smoother tomorrow with respect to these videotapes, so that we don't have these issues keep coming up. Because the tapes had to have been produced during discovery at some point. So copies of the tapes should be available to the defense. And to the extent that there's anything in those tapes that, again, the defense intends to object to based on 403, Like the incident we had earlier today, I just need to know about it in the morning before we start getting into the tapes, and then we have to, you know, take time out, send the jury out, and discuss the issue. The tapes themselves will not have the subtitles. I've ruled that, but the actual tapes shouldn't be a mystery. They should have been produced during discovery. So what, if there's something in those tapes produced in discovery, and if they weren't produced in discovery, you got a Richardson issue. But, if they were produced during discovery, you should be able to review them and say, well, the ones I've reviewed have these things that I think are 403, so I know in advance. It's very difficult to do it when I'm in the middle of trial, we're playing it, and then the jury is, you know, watching the tape. I got to send them back out. So review what you have, and to the extent that there's objections, you know, let me know first thing in the morning before we dive into them.
Well, I mean, if the state intended introducing any tapes tomorrow, they can let us know.
The tapes for tomorrow are the undercover tape. I'm not putting the one that's already in evidence. I'm not using the one from the clerk. It will be the video that's been supplemented in discovery. It does not have subtitles on it. It will be just plain video and audio. And
It's the video between Ms. Dippolito, the one in the car.
yes, sir.
Is that the only one that's coming in tomorrow
The
then?
only
Video.
And that's with the undercover agent, I assume.
Yes, sir.
That's the one we're talking
Any
about.
other calls we should look into for redactions?
There's also calls that are the calls between the defendant and Mr. John.
Between, up here. Are those already in?
No.
Okay, so whatever calls, I mean, you've got them identified. Again, they're in discovery. You should have them. I mean, there shouldn't be any mystery at this point in this case about what calls exist in terms of what's been produced in discovery and what videos exist. So whatever the remaining ones are, just listen to them, make sure there's no 403 objections with respect to any of those, any references that you think are overly prejudicial. Okay, anything else we need to do this evening? I just wanted you guys to, you know, take a look at that stuff and be on the same page tomorrow.
Sure.
Yes.
One. Can I go first?
I don't care. State.
Judge, in opening statement, Mr. Claypool told the jury that there were 180-something calls on August 1st, hundreds of calls each day, a total of 576 calls from Mr. Shahade to the defendant. He then came over to me later today and told me that he believes that he was incorrect and that I was correct about the number of phone calls. He has an affirmative duty to correct his misstatement to the court and to the jury, and they have to present that information somehow to the jury tomorrow to correct that misstatement, because that was an absolute fabrication that was presented to them this morning.
It wasn't a fabrication.
Hold on.
Williams. I resent that comment.
No, I'm not going to have two of you talking to me at once. Let Mr. Claypool,
Your Honor, we're working hard on this case. We've been very respectful. There was an honest mistake on trying to compute all these phone calls. I don't like being called a liar and fabricating.
Okay.
It's unprofessional.
Mr. Claypool, I want you to stay up here because I want to talk to you about what we need to do, if anything, about this. Mr. Williams raised this issue in court with me the other day before you were here. He raised it with Mr. Rosenfeld here. Mr. Rosenfeld did not know the exact number, basically said the evidence is whatever the evidence is, and it's in evidence. Okay. Well, first of all, what was said in opening, of course, is not evidence. It's a statement. And so he's not having to correct evidence. It's a statement that he made to the jury. I'm not sure in what fashion you're proposing that this be corrected from an opening statement.
The problem that I have, Judge, is it was a knowing There's no one could look at these phone records and say that there were 576 calls. It's impossible.
Before we get any more details on the record,
Hang on.
Because he made his point about.
Mr. Rosenfeld, I'm going to give you a chance to talk. I can't listen to two of you at once.
It's absolutely impossible that could have happened. He told me, he came over and he told me today that he believes he was incorrect and there weren't that many phone calls. And I showed him my sheet and I said, yeah, these are the numbers that I pulled off there. And I went through and these are even phone calls that there were no conversations between the two. Even if it was for 1 second, I included the phone call in there. The image left with the jury is that there were, over a 5-day period of time, there was 115 calls. Well, it's more than 115. It would be 118 calls per day between Mr. Shahade and the defendant. There weren't even 118 calls total. There were only 26 calls total that Mr. Shahade called the defendant. That left an impression in the jury that there is all this hanky-panky going on that's an absolute untruth. I'm not putting the records into evidence. How does that get cured? Because what's left with them is that statement. Even though it's not, I can't get up and tell the jury that's a lie. You can't say that. I can't do that. I'm not putting them into evidence.
Okay, well, so I'm going to give you, Mr. Rosenfeld, a chance to respond. Well, go ahead and respond, then I have a question.
Two things, Judge. For Mr. I'm just offended by the fact that Mr. Williams would make those accusations and those statements about my colleague on the record when Mr. Claypool followed his affirmative duty, went to Mr. Williams and said, look, I just found out there was an honest mistake, and told him. So I think that I don't want to use the word theatric, but this behavior is inappropriate. We could have approached, discussed this. Mr. Claypool did the right thing, the ethical thing, and immediately brought it to Mr. Williams' attention. All right, my second point is Mr. Williams wants to go off on this rant and yell at everyone in the courtroom. It's worth noting that Mr. Williams got up there during opening statement and made a statement that Your Honor sustained. You declined my motion for a mistrial, but he told the jurors that there are other tapes that are inadmissible because of hearsay. So if he wants to start making allegations, and I'm not going to get on the record, that's not how I practice law, and call another attorney unethical or acting in bad faith, but in terms of inappropriate behavior, Judge, I think we need to be careful of the things we say. Third, Mr. Claypool had a very good faith basis for having 586 phone calls. And I'll show Your Honor immediately where this came from. When, at the last hearing, when Mr. Williams said, I didn't count that many phone calls, I went ahead and I subpoenaed records from Sprint. I could show the court proof of this. There was no retention. I had my investigator do that. I wanted to make sure Mr. Williams was accurate in his statements and we didn't misrepresent anything to the court.
May I interject for 2 seconds?
Could I just-
Hold on, I'm related. May I be excused by the court if I don't?
Yeah, she just wants to go.
I just want to be excused. I didn't want to walk out.
Ms. Laurie, you're excused.
Thank you very
This is
much.
just a child care issue.
All right, so if I may approach with this real quick, Judge. These are the phone records we have. And if you notice on the records, these are all 286 numbers. Those are Mr. Shahade's numbers. There's 586 calls there. And if you also notice in the top, it says calling. It was our understanding, it was Mr. Claypool's understanding, when he went through those, that that was the person calling. That's why they're all highlighted. This was admitted into evidence at the motion to dismiss. Mr. Williams saw it, Ms. Laurie saw it. This isn't new. This isn't something that was just sprung on them the day before trial. This is from February they've had these records. They could have easily looked at this and said, you know what, Mr. Claypool, Mr. Rosenfeld, you guys are mistaken. We had it was a good faith basis, it's an honest error, but instead, 9 months later, Judge, he comes in here kicking and screaming like he had no notice, like he didn't have these records, like we're acting in bad faith. I mean, this is,
Let me ask a question. Because I'm trying to figure out how to handle correction of the record in terms of the statements made in opening statement. I'm assuming, the state said they're not putting the records in. I'm assuming from the arguments that have been made by the defense that you're intending to put records in. Is that not true? Or is that true? I guess is another way to put it. Are you going to put phone records into evidence?
Yes, it is true.
All right, well, if the phone records are going to come into evidence,
And I'll step you later, man.
then the way to cure this is when Mr. Claypool is making his point about unrecorded phone calls, and he's putting these records, he has to put the records into evidence to support what he said in his opening, okay? So far, he's got testimony that there were some calls that were not recorded. There are no numbers attached to that. When he puts the records into evidence, then he'll just have an affirmative duty at that time to establish with whatever witness he's calling to do that, the number of calls, and the record will be corrected. What happens in an opening statement, of course, is not evidence. And when someone says something in an opening statement that is inaccurate and is incorrect, the way that comes back around to haunt them is opposing counsel gets up in the closing argument and says, you heard 570 phone calls. You didn't see 570 phone calls. Let me tell you what the evidence actually was.
But there is no evidence, Judge, and
Well,
that's how do you cure that when there is no evidence?
Well, there has to be.
Now there isn't. So I'm asking right now, they move it into evidence and it's stipulated right now so that it's in today, now.
Is that the exhibit you're going to put in? Which exhibit do you have for the phone calls? Is that the records you just showed me? I'm not going to ask them to put them. They're going to put phone records in which will accurately reflect the number of calls that were placed between Ms. Dippolito and Mr. Shahadi.
These aren't fake phone records. They're just when we called AT&T and they explained to us.
I got it. I got it. You're going to put phone records in. When the phone records go in, Mr. Claypool will have an affirmative duty to accurately point out with the witness the actual number of calls. And that at that point, the records are in evidence. If that doesn't happen, I'll consider whether there's some other remedy. But at this point, he's made a statement to the jury. He's going to put in evidence which is inconsistent with that statement. It's consistent with phone calls, but inconsistent with 576. And you are going to have the opportunity with that evidence in closing to stand up and say, you may have heard something about 576 phone calls or whatever the number is. You didn't see evidence of that, did you? What you saw was, and then whatever other evidence you put on consistent with your theory about what was going on with these calls. But if the records come in and Mr. Claypool puts before the jury the accurate number, there is no prejudice here.
Agreed.
I mean,
my problem was there was no requirement that they put anything into evidence. That's leaves me in this bind that this was left out there and I can't deal with it.
Well, that may be if it didn't come in, and there may be another way we'd have to approach it.
So
but I guess I return to my initial point, and that is what is said in opening is not evidence. It's the attorney saying what they believe the evidence is going to show. And normally what happens is if you make statements to the jury which the evidence does not support, you're the one with egg on your face. You're going to have to stand up in front of that jury when your opposing counsel says, you heard what he said, there is no such evidence, and here's what the evidence really is. So I don't think this is, I appreciate the fact that it's a significant issue because there's a very vast difference between 570 phone calls and whatever the actual number is, 28 or whatever it is. But there is a remedy for this, which is simple. They go in, and you clarify it when you examine. Mr. Claypool, what do you want to say?
My last comment is not at the heart of this. Mr. Williams, by the way, has every right to ask for this. I don't blame him. He's entitled to that. I'm happy to work with the court to cure this. I think your proposal is fine. And I want to let you know, I found out for the first time in the hallway here, and I came right in and talked to Mr. Williams. I was shocked, utterly shocked. Do you think I want to look like I did today and make a comment? Now I've got to somehow, in closing, I've got to address this. So that proves that it was not clearly, by no means intentional. It's embarrassing for me personally. So you have every right, and I think we want to cure this. We don't want this to be some kind of unfair, sneaky kind of thing that it looks like. And that's, well, we want to do that.
All right, well, we've got a cure at this point. I don't think we have to belabor this any further. And when you're making arguments to me, I'm just going to tell you this right up front. I've tried to make this point before. I don't mind zealous representation of your clients and zealous advocacy in front of the jury. But when you add comments which disparage each other in front of me, it doesn't do you any good. I spent 6.5 years in civil. I've heard it all in terms of lawyers going at each other. And it doesn't assist me in evaluating the argument. In fact, all it does is I have to take time and say, okay, calm down, folks, and tell me what the issue is. So if you want to be effective advocates in front of me, what I want you to do is take down the theatrics. We don't need to add adjectives every time that we're expressing ourselves. Simply tell me what the issue is and let me work through it. Like I said, a little bit of theatrics in front of the jury is part of your job. That's what trial lawyers do. Gets you no weight with me. Does nothing for me. Candidly, it irritates me. So keep it simple, keep it straight, tell me what the problems are, and I will try to resolve them, and try to be professional at all times. So that's a warning to both sides. Both sides have gotten excited at times. Take it down a notch. It doesn't help me any.
No, I understand. I just asked that, in light of Mr. Claypool doing the right thing, he not be called acting in bad faith 3 times, Judge. It's just not appropriate.
Okay, we're past all of that. Mr. Williams, we straight on this?
Okay.
Mr. Roosevelt, Mr. Claypool, we straight on this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because it's, like I said, it doesn't aid me in resolving issues I have to resolve. Just give it to me straight. What's the issue? Where do you think the prejudice is? Where do you think the legal objection is? And let me try to work through it, just like we just did. That's all I need. I'm not, because at this point, it's not a situation where I'm intending to impose sanctions on anyone. So all of this rhetoric, I'm not referring anyone to the Florida bar. I'm trying a case. So the rhetoric doesn't help me. What helps me try a case is, what's the issue? What do I have to do? Okay, and I'll do the best I can. I hesitate to ask anything else before we break. I knew there would be. Mr. Roosevelt, go ahead.
Day wouldn't end without me bringing up some legal issues. Just quickly, and I'm bringing this up now so you can get the site for tomorrow. I'm renewing our motion to suppress that video, and Your Honor would suggest that it does not apply to video. I'm going to draw your attention to, let's see, Minotti v. Baudo, 42 Southern 3rd, 824. If I can just read to you the head notes. Statute regarding civil action for interception and disclosure of wire, oral, or electronic communication did not allow for civil actions for attempted interception, and thus, doctor did not violate statute by placing hidden cameras to record activities of other doctors where the audio recording capabilities of cameras did not work.
You just made my point.
No, there the audio capabilities did work in the case of Mr. Shihade. This is saying because the audio did not work?
No, but the point is, that it is the interception of the audio which is the violation of the statute. I'll look at the case. Give me your cite. I don't want to belabor this. Give me your cite again. And I would agree with that because the cameras were on, but there was no audio, so it wasn't a violation of the statute. It's the way I'm here.
The CD that was played was audio from that video camera.
The case that you're citing to me, the holding of that case, as I understand it, is there was no violation of the statute because there were cameras without audio, correct? That's the holding.
Because the audio was not working.
Right, because there was no audio interception.
What they're saying, though, is if the video with the audio was working, the statute would have applied.
Correct, because there would have been an interception of audio.
In this case, that video camera that was shown, that was a video camera with audio.
I think we're kind of talking in circles. The audio portion is the part that had to be consented to under the statute. That's my point.
The alternative argument I had was, even if you did not buy my initial argument about consent, that the video should not have been played, just anything from a wire he was wearing.
Okay, well, just go ahead and give me the site at this point, Mr. Roosevelt. I started to get it and I missed it. Go ahead and give it to me.
42 Southern 3rd, 824, 2010.
824? That's all I need. 42 Southern 3rd, 824.
And I believe you want to take a look at. You have one more there. 512 Southern 2nd, 984.
Southern 2nd?
Yes.
924?
984.
984.
984.
Okay, I got it. I'll look at both cases before we reconvene.
So I guess you reserve ruling on that. And last, we haven't addressed the motion to strike jury, motion for a mistrial, and motion for change of venue. That should take about a minute to litigate.
Yeah, we can do it if you want. I mean, it's basic. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt your argument. I think it's the same thing we've been arguing about, but go ahead.
Without going into the procedural history, just as of 2 nights ago when I first did my research, there was 454,523 hits on Ms. Dippolito's case. As of last night, there was 473, 831 views. So in one night, there was roughly 20,000 more views. In the entirety of Mr. Goodman's case, there was 16,121 views. So Ms. Dippolito's case got more attention in one night than Mr. Goodman's did in its entirety. And, you know, we'll just reiterate that she is being deprived of a fair and impartial jury in this case. Your Honor did on several occasions what I take as waver and vacillate when you were on the bench and showed some concern as to whether you could see a trial here. I'm going to totally screw up your expression, so I don't even want to try to repeat it to you about having your finger on the dam and you felt like you were having...
Well, it wasn't the easiest jury selection I've been through, no, but I mean, yeah, I mean, anytime you're selecting a jury, you have concerns from start to finish as to whether or not you can accomplish the task, and that is to have enough jurors at the end of the day to select an impartial jury. So yeah, of course there are times during the course of jury selection where I was concerned. That's true in every case I try. I can have 40 jurors up for an armed robbery, and, you know, I've got half that won't, you know, apply the right to remain silent, another third that have some other reason why they can't. That's always a concern. So yes, I did have concerns as I went through. I didn't waver in my conclusion that I believed that we could seat and did seat an impartial jury, but of course.
Part of the change of venue motion, when you brought that up, you kind of grimaced a little bit.
No, anytime you have, yes. I mean, I'm not suggesting it wasn't a concern of mine. It's just a concern I felt and still feel I was able to work through examination of the potential jurors. And that's the process I went through. So I'm not going to sit up here and suggest I didn't have concern through the jury selection process. I always do, and of course, I considered your motion very seriously. Your motion is not a frivolous motion. It certainly has enough merit to look at, examine, and determine whether I want to grant it. So, of course, I considered it. It's like I said, it's an important issue, I know, but my feelings about it haven't changed. But go ahead.
I understand. I just, you know, in light of that, I think that any doubt you had must be resolved liberally in favor of Ms. Dippolito, which is, you know, what Singer v. State said, Florida Supreme Court. I know Your Honor did cite the other case law. That's 109 Southern 2nd 7, Florida Supreme Court 1959. And I know, you know, there could be some inconvenience here, but we're really dealing with, you know, a person's liberty. And just to give you two examples, two things that have happened since yesterday. I've gotten an email from someone who lives in Boynton Beach asking if they could testify in the trial, just to give you an idea as to, you know, the craze in this county. I mean, I guess covering the name, show you the emails. It was sent to my work address. And
I don't need to see it.
I don't know if that's confidential. I had a officer from Boynton Beach tell me off the record that he has no idea how she'll have a fair trial in Palm Beach County. An officer was involved in this case. I mean, you hear things like that, you really got to think, is there some doubt here? And does Ms. Dippolito have a fair and impartial jury? And that officer, and like I said, it was off the record, the conversation, I'm not going to disclose the name, but who was involved, said, you know, that he has that concern, and his concern was that people were going to lie to get on the jury. And that was my concern, that was Mr. Claypool's concern, Ms. Dippolito's concern, and that's still our concern. So with that, it's getting late. We move to strike the jury, move for a mistrial, and change of venue.
Okay. I'm going to, again, deny the motion for mistrial, motion for change of venue. I'm not going to go back through the history. It's late.
Previous argument?
Yeah, my previous argument, my previous positions, yeah. The change of venue, if you look at the cases, falls squarely within the court's discretion, only upon abuse of discretion. And the court has to look and determine whether or not the court believes it, based on the totality of the circumstances, can seat a fair and impartial jury. I think the procedure I used did that, and I'm going to have to stand behind that. If the 4th District thinks I'm wrong, they think I'm wrong. You know.
And I just respectfully request again, I know it's an inconvenience if you ask them every morning.
I don't know that I'm going to do, after a while, that gets kind of silly. I'm going to ask them periodically during the course of the trial. So I will be asking that question repeatedly. I can't say I'm going to ask it every morning. Mr. Williams, anything from you? Okay. All right, we're in recess. I'll see you at 9:45. I'm doing my normal docket in here to approach with Mr. Williams? Sure. All right, we're in recess.